No!
Hi everyone.
Hey!
I totally didn't hit the wrong button in OBS, but here we are.
There we go. I just heard myself yell no really loud, so my mic's definitely working.
Yeah, well, it's always something. We we were actually prepared for our stream today, and then I did a wrong thing. So
That just proves that we should never prepare for our streams.
I mean, that's what I'm going for. Um, Already got a few friends hanging out in the chat. Sarge and Mr. Garrison and
Mr. P channel needs 600 subs. You'll get there. I mean, that's a lot of sandwiches to eat all by yourself.
I know, right? Like even if they're 6-inch subs, like that's
hopefully he's throwing a party.
I mean, or maybe he's just trying to develop his naval fleet. And
there you go.
Secretly attack people.
Yeah. It's a lot of submarines.
It is, one way or another. But we are glad that everyone is here with us today. Our topic today, we want to talk all about droids.
Droids!
So you know them, you love them, we love them too. But that's what we're here to talk about, is everything droid. So if you have droid questions, you can pop those in the chat. If you have a favorite droid, you can let us know, or if you want to talk to us about why you like droids, anything like that. That's what we are here to talk about today. And then also, hint, hint, Sarge, if Manchester United scores, that's another thing that can be left in our chat also. Right off the bat, every Confederacy droid sucks. I mean, I don't know. Like there are a lot of them. Like
it's
that's
true. But I mean, the Magna Guards are pretty intense.
I mean, even like just the regular super battle droids killed like dozens of Jedi at the Battle of Geonosis. So
true.
So
does Grievous count as a droid?
I don't know. I was going to ask you that earlier when I was putting together all of my slides of pictures of droids. Because, I mean, he's definitely more machine now than man. But,
yes.
But
I mean, I think he would count as a cyborg still.
Yeah, I think so.
Not a droid.
I mean, although, like, what about... I didn't anticipate talking about what a droid was, but like, does like the Jedi AI from the Dr. Aphra comic count as a droid?
Oh yeah, it's a good question, because it's definitely an AI. It's not, because she thinks it's a Jedi spirit for a while, and then it's like a super construct.
Or like, now that L3 is the Falcon a droid now? Because like, when you think about like some of the droid ships that the Confederacy used, like
they were droids.
They were droids, yeah. So like where's the difference between a ship with a personality and a droid?
Ooh, this is a little bit too philosophical for a Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, this is definitely not. Like, I wanted to talk about how cool super battle droids were in Attack of the Clones. Like, that was the place that I was headed with this. But I don't know. I mean, I bet the droid Gotra has an answer for what counts as a droid.
That's true. Well, and I always wonder. Honestly, I kind of wonder this. And I think we intended to start on the more superficial, but maybe we'll go backwards instead. But when you think of things like, L3, some of the more complex droids, R2, 3PO, who we have as these great personalities, it's so easy to get attached to them, right? Like, I was reading, because we cannot do a Port Haven Streamcast without mentioning Kevin Scott. I was reading Kevin Scott's Luke and Leia adventure, and in one of the timelines, if you take a wrong path, R2 actually dies. And I tweeted at Kevin yelling at him for making me depressed at work, because I was not happy. But you know, if R2 dies, I'm sad. You know, if 5 battle droids die, I'm like, you know, it's whatever. You know what I mean? Or it's even kind of funny. And like, no one's ever worried about the mouse droids. Like, it's almost like there's this level of sentience.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, if there's more personality, we accept it. But if it's just like the probe droid that interrogated Princess Leia, you know, we don't care.
Right. I mean, and that's something that new canon has gotten into a lot. Like in Last Shot, when, you know, the droid Gotra and other people are trying to get at this like droid consciousness that's like taking over all droids. Like I don't know, like, but even like I was thinking, so I just loaned one of my sister's Most Wanted, and she just finished it, and I was remembering there's a droid character in there that Han and Kira kind of know. And it almost is like, because the thing about this droid is like he's replaced all his parts over and over and over again because he's like an independent droid kind of thing. And it made me think, just now, have you ever heard of the ship of Theseus?
Yes.
Like if people in the stream are not familiar, like it's this philosophical kind of thought experiment. So a ship leaves to sail around the world, and before it comes back, like everything about the ship has changed. Like they've had to replace the sails and every single plank and every single crew member and every single, you know, whatever. And so like the question is it the same ship? And so like it makes me wonder the same thing about droids too. Like, what makes a droid a discrete droid? Like, is it the same after a memory wipe? Is it the same, you know?
Right.
I mean, 3PO is really excited about his red arm. like how many red things could 3PO have before he's a different droid now?
Well, and you know, you and I just finished Agents of Chaos Heroes Trial, and that's a very real crisis for 3PO.
Oh yeah,
in that book, where he's questioning his own mortality.
Right.
But and then in Aftermath that I'm reading now, you know, Mr. Bones is often getting parts replaced, but he's still always Mr. Bones.
Right.
I think some points in canon, they, especially with R2, they try to explain like droid personalities come when they don't get a memory wipe, right? And like you need to wipe your droid's memory regularly so that they don't. Right. Like it's almost like personalities for some droids are a glitch. But then you get other droids like, you know, 000 or L3. Well, L3 might just, I doubt she's had a memory wipe in a while. But, you know, the personality is part of the point. Right. Like HK-47, who regularly forgets things, but is always HK-47.
Yeah. I mean, even with like 000, like that was less about like the physical droid and it was the personality programming.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. Like, there's a lot of interesting questions here, and I think it gets at, again. I didn't mean for us to start with the heavy stuff. We'll double back to what's the coolest looking droid in a minute.
Yeah.
But like it really gets at also like what are the function of droids also, and you know that was one of the things that I always found really compelling about the idea of the Clone Wars, even before we had, you know, the television show, The Clone Wars, was that, you know, part of like the philosophical point to it is you have these two armies that are both entirely replaceable and disposable. Right. And so like the war could be on the scale it was because they had armies that they didn't care if any individual member of them, like they weren't writing letters home to you know the guy that assembled the battle droid, or to Jango. Right. You know, Jango and Boba after Jango died wasn't just getting stacks and stacks of, you know, sorry your brother died letters every battle. So like, but even some of a lot of the new canon stuff has really gotten at, you know, this was L3's whole thing in Solo. Yep. You know, droids are used as tools, but they are also treated as people. Like we like R2, but we're also going to tell R2 what to do, and he's going to have to go on the outside of the Naboo cruiser in Phantom Menace.
And fix the thing.
Right.
Or I think that was such a fun struggle with K2SO in Rogue One.
Right.
Because, well, I mean, he's reprogrammed anyway, but like Jyn's always telling him what to do, and he's like dropping her bag on the ground and
right.
all of that good stuff. He was sassy. One of the many sassy droids in Star Wars.
I mean, but even then, like, the whole thing is, I'm not going to kill you because the captain said not to.
He said so. Yeah, it's like I'm coming too because Cassian said I had to.
Right. Or like I think it was the official Star Wars like Twitter account that posted the like Christmas card. It was like, I'm wishing you a Merry Christmas because the captain said I had to. Like, but like, so like, as funny as that is, and as much as I love K2, like, it's still Cassian instructing him to do a thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's how much that that can override too, because again, to go back to Legends with HK-47, you have, he would forget whole things and only remember them when certain stimuli would happen, right? Like the whole Revan reveal caused him to remember all of this stuff, and it's like he loses whole access to things that are in because of programming. Or you have Proxy from The Force Unleashed, which I'm streaming through now, and Proxy is like Kato from the original Pink Panther movies. He'll just like try to attack and kill you at random. But that programming supersedes even what Starkiller would tell him, because I'm assuming anybody who really cares about the game already knows what happens. But later on in the game, we're going to find a point where Proxy is very unhelpful in his games.
I mean, but then you also have, I know you mentioned Crater a minute ago from Adventures in Wild Space, but like his Crater is constructed of parts from other droids.
That's true.
So like it's
and changes over to, and sometimes he becomes like a giant load lifter. Do you remember that?
I do.
Oh, that was so good. Talk about Tom Huddleston for a little bit, which we never do as much as Kevin, but we should.
Yeah, that's true. We should bug him on Twitter.
We should bug him more. How are you doing?
I'm sure that's what Kevin thinks every time we tweet at him. I wonder if they tweet at Tom this much. Oh.
I try to bug Adam, but
But like, at what point, like, is a droid's identity like wrapped up in the parts that it has? Like, I would be upset if I lost an arm, even if I had it replaced. But like, that's a thing we see happen to all kind of characters in Star Wars, and they kind of take it in stride. So like,
well, even the humans, to be fair.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it becomes a thematic thing for Luke and Anakin both to have had their hands cut off, you know, and that's a big moment in Return of the Jedi. But like I don't know. Like, is that different than 3PO having a silver leg and then not, or like
having a red arm or not? Well, I feel like if you're human and then you like. For Luke and Anakin, right, losing their human limbs and getting robot limbs was like a sign of their humanity.
Right.
And I suppose I can relate to how a droid would perceive that as a left-handed person. I'm often told that my left-handedness is wrong, in the same way their roboted-handedness would be told that is a sign of evil. So I can understand any kind of indignation droids would have over such a thing.
Well, it's like I equally feel bad for you as I do for them. But there's things
there's
like
a couple left-handed people in chat right now.
13% from what I'm told, on average. But like even so, like I recently watched Attack of the Clones. I guess that was about a week or two ago, and I still love it. I could talk about how awesome that film is all day long. But like, there's that line when they first go into the droid foundry that 3PO has, and it's like, machines making machines. How perverse. Yeah. Like, and I don't know. Like, 3PO makes a big deal in the prequels about Anakin being his maker. And
right.
That means something to him. And I'm not quite sure that every droid feels that way, because not every droid is, personally constructed for personal use the way that 3PO was. But like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how that idea that droids making more droids is like a perversion. Like, that's the whole thing with the Vong. Like, the Vong think that droids existing, or that machines in general existing, but especially droids, like, are a mockery of, and like an abomination to them, like on a religious level, which is a different thing. But
well, which is interesting, because the people of the main galaxy in Star Wars think the Vong are an abomination for mutating themselves and mutilating people. So it's just kind of funny what is. Midway is talking about I-5 from the Coruscant Nights books. I know you started the first one. He's from I-5 is in all of the Michael Reeves books, I believe. I believe he's also in the MedStar books and the Darth Maul book. It's been so long since I read those, but I remember liking I-5 quite a bit.
Well, he's like partnered with another guy, in at least what I've read of the first one.
Yes.
But he's like the obviously smarter and more competent one. So he's not the sidekick of the two. But then you also have droids like IG-88 that are like bounty hunters in their own right.
Yeah.
And like was the Death Star for a while in Legends.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. When you talked about like L3 becoming the Falcon, I'm like, what about IG-88 becoming Hey, Branster, welcome. I love HK-47 really is the droid.
Right.
Is the droid.
But even with like HK, so like if you want to talk about this in his context there too, like he gets offended that there are newer versions of himself.
Yes, that's true.
He sees those as like perversions of his essential identity or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting too, just the diversity of how droids even consider themselves, because I think some droids would think droids made by droids would be more superior. Obviously, a lot of the CIS would feel that way. It's interesting, and you brought up clones, these kind of disposable armies. Hey, dude, how's it doing? Sorry, I lost my words there for a second, but man, it's been a while since I've seen you. Hope you're doing well. Got really excited there for a second. But like with the clones, it's interesting that they're disposable, but they're people, but they're also so programmed.
Right, sure.
Even to the point where we find out they commit Order 66 out of compulsion from a chip in their head. And obviously the clones are human, especially because Rex and Wolf and the other one, Gregor, they remove their chips, as we see in Rebels, and they can function without their chips. So they're obviously far more human than anything else. But it kind of creates this level of like, can you program a body? It's kind of weird. This ties in a lot to a game I've been playing on my Yoda Bauer channel, actually, which is discussing similar things. But it's like, can you almost create like a Terminator, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator that had like, the metal body but skin around it and looked human, but it was really a robot. And at what point, could you program clones with less independency and they really would have been just droids with flesh?
Well, it's like another one of my favorite sci-fi films is Blade Runner, and I just read the novella that it's based on, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and like that's the central thing, is that there are robots that are meant to look like people, and like it's so fascinating to me, like that the test to know whether or not you were human was like to measure your level of compassion,
right?
And so like we think of droids even in Star Wars as these kind of cold, like literally metal machines,
right?
But they're also, at least from our perspective as viewers, some of the biggest personalities that we have.
Right.
You know, like even like BB-8 or R2. You know, like they're characters.
Yep.
And like in every sense of it, like 3PO has a personality that is all to himself. Like I remember the first time I watched Empire Strikes Back, and 3PO runs into that other protocol droid. Like I remember thinking, oh, there are more of them. Like of course there are, because they're like mass produced. But like to think, oh, it's the same thing but not. Like I don't know.
I remember watching The Phantom Menace and seeing TC-14, and for a while wondering if it wasn't 3PO, and then we met 3PO.
Oh yeah.
Later in the movie, but it looked similar enough. I was like, huh.
R2 tells him that he's naked.
Yeah. My parts are showing. My goodness. Oh. Which that's an interesting thing too. Like 3PO felt weird without being, because he wasn't finished.
Right.
Like when Anakin's leaving, he apologizes. Like, I'm sorry, I never finished you.
Right.
And he's self-conscious about it. It's kind of interesting. And the question is always, you know, are they that way because they are programmed that way, or are they that way because they are that way?
Right.
You remember in KOTOR, one of the tombs, there was that droid you're sent in, and you have to either kill it or like hack it. And it's having a crisis because it kills. And it doesn't want to, but it like freaks out because it's too sensitive to sound. So anytime it hears loud sounds, it just goes ballistic.
Right.
And so then if you do the light side thing, you can delete its assassination protocols and then let it go, and then it presumably goes and hides somewhere quiet.
Right. Or, I mean, this is definitely not a place I wanted to go with this, but there's also that side quest in KOTOR on Dantooine, where
that
the
I
lady
never played.
Is like
I
super
played it exactly
attached.
once. Played it exactly once.
But she's like super attached to her droid.
Yes, she is. Hey, you know, I guess it works according to L3.
So like that's a different type of. I mean, even with like Lando and L3, like that's like a gag in Solo, but I mean, I don't know, like I don't know, like it's an interesting question. You know, like, do they have humanoid characteristics because they're programmed to, or
right,
or is that just who they are and the personalities that they have?
Well, it's like I can try to talk to Siri on my phone, and for a brief period of time she seems very real. Then suddenly it's like, oh nope, you have no idea what I'm talking about, and are definitely not a thing.
Right. It also reminds me, I don't know if you've read, but have you seen The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I have seen, and I've read the first 3 books.
But like Marvin,
yes,
like his whole deal is that he was given a genuine personality, and it just happened to be a really like depressing one.
Like so, genuine like, people personality.
But so like he's programmed that way intentionally, but that is also like who he is as a character.
Yeah, like, I think you ought to know I'm feeling very depressed. Hey, Poe, welcome.
Like when you said that, it was before her name showed up on chat on my end, and I'm like, wait, Poe is here?
Oh, everyone calls her Poe in like all the other chats I'm in.
No, it's great. I didn't see it at first.
I always think of Poe Dameron, so there you go.
She's been playing a lot of Apex Legends lately. Just like Sarge has. But another thing that we wanted to talk about with droids is not just kind of the role that droids play like in the literal canon universe, but also like the role they play in storytelling.
Yes.
Like so the two things that I kind of thought about, and we mentioned this in the prep work that we actually did this week, which is awesome.
We did, and we're not even being sarcastic this time.
Yeah. I like that we have to have that disclaimer that when we say we did prep work that we genuinely did it this time.
By prep work, we mean we talked for 20 minutes before the stream started.
But, so you like, the droids are one, like, the comic relief very often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think about, like, the whole 3PO stuff in the last hour of Attack of the Clones, where he, you know, gets on a different body and has all these one-liners. Or, like, even, I think about R2 in Revenge of the Sith, like, at the beginning, where he, like, dumps all the oil and then lights the fire.
Right,
like, on the Confederacy ship. Or even, like, just all through the films, like, even BB-8, like, are these very...
And I think it's in Force Awakens. I don't think it's TLJ, but, like, the Falcon turns and he, like, rolls up the wall.
Yeah, and then he, like, uses all his, like, wires to hold himself in place.
It's so good.
Like, even that moment where he gives Finn a thumbs up, which is, like, that iconic image now, but, like, that's meant for humor. And so, like, that's one of the big things that the droids do for us is, I mean, even if you think
Chopper. Chopper is, like, one giant rolling cranky old man.
Right. I mean, or even, you know, we already talked about K2, but, like, that's a different, like, it's a darker comic relief, but it's still...
Yeah.
It's still comic relief, or then the same for HK.
Mm-hmm. I feel like somewhere along the way, and I feel like this is one of those things that was not done intentionally by the films, but became this understanding, is somewhere along the way it became a thing where you always have to have the sassy droid. Right. And I don't say that as a complaint. I just say that as, like, that's because we always had R2 and 3PO. We have that, and, like, that's why we have BB-8 now, because BB-8's the droid for the new team up. You have K2SO, you have Chopper. Resistance has Bucket as well as BB-8, or now CV-23. And there's even HK and T3 were the 3PO and R2 for that game. In the same way, Afra has 000 and BT.
Right.
And it's just kind of like every it's how you make something feel Star Warsy is you put in the sassy droid.
Right.
Which is interesting. And I think the humor thing you were talking about is, I feel like humor from a droid is more generally accepted by audiences than humor from not, right? So, like, if a human or alien, like if a organic said some of the lines that K2SO said, or that if somebody grumbled the way that Chopper grumbles, it'd be like, okay, this joke is old. I've heard this, they're ruining the moment with comedy. The same argument I hear from anybody who just came out of a Marvel movie. Right. Marvel can't hear over their giant piles of money. But when it's from a droid, it's somehow more okay for that character to be humorous. And I don't know why that, I guess I can guess, but I just think that's kind of an interesting thing.
I mean, do you think it has something to do with what we were already talking about, though, about how, like, droids aren't necessarily programmed with personalities? Like, they aren't, like, it's a contradiction almost for a droid to have a sense of humor.
Right.
And so maybe that's why it works. But I also think they just get away with it because audiences like it more. I don't know.
So your droids in Star Wars are a bit like children. There's definitely an element of them copying their parents, responding to their upbringing. BB-8, BB-9E, that's true.
Sure.
And I think you're right. I think you're onto something there, where droids can exhibit childlike characteristics, but because they're not a child, you're not going to hate them.
Right.
I wouldn't hate, but like the general audience that doesn't want to go to a kids movie. Right. So it's not a kid, it's a droid with machine gun arms, so it's fine. It's adult because it can shoot things. So I think that's the thing, because ultimately, like, that kind of more childlike stuff is funny. Like, the stuff that K2SO says is funny. But if it was coming out of a person, you would be like, well, why would they keep this insubordinate guy in the group? It doesn't make sense. But when it's a droid, it's like, well, it's just a droid being weird.
I mean, but they also get like some of the most emotional moments too. Somebody mentioned earlier, K2 had the saddest death.
Yes.
But even like in The Last Jedi, when R2 replays that clip of Leia from A New Hope, like that's one of the most emotional parts of that film for me.
Or when I tweeted Kevin because I was mad because of R2D2. I was wrecked on the inside. I think it's tied into that too, though, because the droids can have this childlike innocence. Even somebody like HK or Mr. Bones, who are not innocent, they've killed many, 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 many people.
Right.
But because it's like programmed, you're not like, ooh, why am I laughing at a serial killer? A serial killer making jokes isn't funny, but it's like, it's a droid, so it's fine.
Right.
I think it also just comes from the human desire to make everything anthropomorphic in some way.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, like when I hit a pothole, I like rub my steering wheel and console my car that it just hit a pothole that does absolutely nothing. And I think we naturally want to do that. But I think there's something reassuring when it's a droid, because the droid because the droid is programmed, even if they do something quirky, the droid's always going to be the droid. R2 is always going to be R2. R2 is not going to fall to the dark side. You know what I mean? And even if he did, it was because somebody put a virus in his system, and so you purge the virus, and he's back to being R2.
Right.
R2 doesn't have to have a redemption arc. He doesn't have to atone for anything. You know, in KOTOR 2, you can put a pacifist protocol or something, I can't remember what it's called, inside of HK, and it changes his personality.
Oh, right.
And, you know, if you were to keep that in HK-47, there would be no redemption arc for HK-47 because he's a droid. And so I think there's something to that, too, where we can get emotionally attached to the droids because they're not going to betray us. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, which is interesting given that so many of them don't speak a language that we can understand. Mm-hmm. Like R2 and BB-8 and Chopper, you know, they articulate themselves, but not in ways that we identify as language.
Right.
You know, and like the computers can translate it, and you know, maybe Luke understands what R2 is saying, but like we don't. And so like it is just pure emotion, you know, and maybe that goes back to that idea of it being, you know, childlike. But I also remember the first time I watched Return of the Jedi, when R2, I mean, like before you realize that it's like a ploy necessarily, or before I realized it was, when R2 gets sent down to like Jabba's palace, and like there's that like droid torture moment, like
that room was scary.
But like droids have to be a feeling kind of thing if they can experience the pain that, I mean, that droid was screaming as it was having its like feet burned.
Right, and who would program that necessarily? Right. It kind of makes me feel like, you know, if you've ever been using your computer and it's like overheating and it's mad at you, it's like, is that the sound it's really making? You just can't hear it. And also, welcome, Blue. Good to see you.
Yeah, one of our pals. But I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Now I'm distracted by Poetics Breakfast. So.
But another thing that I thought about as kind of a role, like a storytelling role, that droids play in Star Wars, is kind of as the narrative lens. Like that's definitely in the first 6 films at least what R2 is. Like R2, you know, like in universe is literally like the only person to have a complete record of everything that happened.
Yeah.
But like that's also like we start with the droids. Like the film starts with the droids, and they're there for us the whole time. Almost, I think I said this earlier before we started, almost like, you know, a Greek chorus there to give us the exposition, to give us like just the frame, you know, not literally, but like the metaphorical frame through which we see and understand what's going on.
Yeah, and I it's kind of interesting too that you meet the story, especially if you look at it, watching A New Hope when it was just Star Wars and we didn't know anything else.
Right.
Why pick robots to introduce the story, right? Because you want to pick somebody that's relatable, and I think that with the robots, it's almost that kind of like childlike innocence again. Like it's like what I was saying. It's like when you see R2 and 3PO talking, you're not wondering, okay, is 3PO really just an act? And as soon as they get into town, like he'll sell R2 and betray him or something. Like you can just totally believe they are who they are.
Right.
Because there's no reason for the droids to be lying to each other.
Right.
And they're not going to have, at least these two. Later on, we do meet robots that have greed and that sort of thing, but with these two, that's not there. And so in a weird way, even though they're robots, they are the most accessible character, because you can instantly just know who they are, I guess.
Right. Well, and even then too, like, I just think about, the Skywalker saga, as we are told, is ending.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of characters that we may never see again on screen. But like I remember, like before everybody wrapped and we knew that like episode 9 had wrapped. Like I remember the day that like Anthony Daniels was posting and people were posting, oh, this is the last day for C-3PO. Like and just or even like I had a lot of emotions when Carrie Fisher died, but I had a lot of emotions when Kenny Baker died too.
Yeah.
And so like even like the actor like who is not doing like a lot of what we associate with the personality of R2.
Right.
But like there's still emotion there. There's still feeling there. C-3PO was created by Anakin Skywalker in the prequel trilogy.
So they both 3PO and R2 premiere in the first movie, which is actually episode 4 in 77. So they've been known to audiences the same amount of time. In 99, episode 1 came out, and R2 was already around and already in service to another character. And then we meet 3PO, who's under construction. But yeah, it is interesting how you connect, because even with, we keep talking about K2SO, but Alan Tudyk is so tied to that character. It's L3 is Phoebe. I don't remember her last name, but I know her first name. But she's you kind of she was there on set for everyone, and she was great in the press tour. For Solo had a great press tour for the 3 times it was advertised.
I mean, but even in Solo, L3 is a lot of that narrative lens there too. Like it's not the whole film the way that 3PO and R2 are in most of the regular saga films, but like she's more than just a character. Like she's also in a lot of ways, and I don't know if that's in a world where we don't have like actual force powers, but we do have robots. Like maybe they're meant to be our touchstone in this world, even like more so than the humans that we get. I don't know, but it's like very often I just feel like even with T3 in KOTOR, like you start the game with T3, like you start both of those games. Like one of the reasons I don't like to play KOTOR 2 is because like the first hour and a half of that game is I don't know, that's so long on Paragus, but
so long on Paragus. There are skip, if you play it on computers, you can get either a skip Paragus mod or get a lightsaber on Paragus mod, which helps a lot.
Like I just have a save file, like I have like a dark side and a light side save file that I just start from so that I don't have to play all the way through Paragus again.
Yeah,
but it's just like even in that game though, like T3 is that narrative lens.
Yep. Very early on. Poe, the Star Wars movies actually were movies first, and then books. And there's many books there's many, many books that you can read. If you want, hop in the Discord later, and I'd be happy to recommend some to you.
While we're talking about droids, have you ever, I don't know if I've asked you this before, have you ever seen the droids cartoons? Because I have not.
I've read the Droids comics.
Mm-hmm.
In the just before Dark Horse stopped getting Star Wars comics, they were releasing those omnibus collections, and they had one for the Droid comics, and I read those, and those were wacky but funny.
Right.
I've never sat down. I've watched a little bit of the Ewoks cartoon. I've never really sat down and watched the Droids cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something interesting. I think the main Droids cartoon I've seen is the one that's in Holiday Special.
Yeah, we'll have to try to find those and do another watch on stream.
That would be a fun watch.
But like,
especially because it's older.
Even thinking about the droids, though, I almost feel bad saying this, and I know that we don't necessarily agree about this either. But as much as I love the Clone Wars, like the droids episodes of that were always my least favorite.
Yeah, there's certain droid episodes I really liked, but then there's certain like the freaking Void ones were rough. I liked Gregor in that. Yeah. That was about it. But I mean, like, I loved the Cad Bane one where like R2 and 3PO go to a spa. I don't know why, but that made me so happy on the inside.
Yeah, those were always those, and I mean, I guess like some of the other ones, and maybe it gets into like the droids being the children kind of thing too, because I remember the first episode I ever watched after I saw the film, which turned me off. I was like, I'm gonna give this a chance. Was the one with the the prince? What is that? What was the name of the episode?
The Mon Cala?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I just hated that so much. And but that was like a more like child oriented episode too. So maybe that's why.
Because of the prince. Although the animation in those episodes was stunning.
Oh sure, yeah, like the water stuff.
It was so good. I think I was just distracted by that the whole time during that arc.
But if the droids are meant to be the children, and I also didn't like the other, like, child episodes of Clone Wars, maybe that's like a commonality there.
Yeah, that could be. Those on that note, since we have just the back quarter left, maybe we should actually do the superficial conversation.
Oh sure. So one thing I wanted to talk about. If we're just talking, I mean, we could talk about our favorite droids, and I think we'd probably have the same kind of list.
Yeah.
We can do that if you want. But I was thinking, when I was kind of thinking after we settled on this as a topic, weeks in advance, I was thinking about what things I wanted to talk about, and the one thing I keep coming back to, and maybe it's just because I watched Attack of the Clones recently, but I remember the part of that film. Where, because, after everybody saw the Phantom Menace, the battle droids did a lot of damage, like in those battle scenes in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But they were also all, Roger, Roger, and, like meant to be stupid and stuff like that. But, like, I remember in the Battle of Geonosis, like, when the super battle droids come out, and, like, there's that one scene where one of them just, like, knocks aside one of the original battle droids. Like, I just remember thinking, oh, that is so cool. Like, that is one of the, like, just awesome. Like, Like, I remember the way I felt when I saw that in theaters. And I was like, wow, this is a different type of thing. So I don't know. If I was listing the coolest droids, super battle droids still stand out to me for that particular moment.
I was always into the droidicars, the destroyer droids.
Oh, yeah.
They're just... Yeah. I loved the way they would just like roll, and then they would just like pop up, and they'd have the shields, and I don't know, those. Yeah. I just always love those. I hate fighting against them in any game.
That's what I was gonna say. I think that's the reason I don't like the droidicars is from those original Battlefront games, because like droidicars are the reason I didn't play as the Republic in the Battlefront, the original two games, because once those things roll out, you're like, all right, well, I don't have rockets, so I guess I'm dead.
Right. And what's funny, though, about that is they were so hard to play against, but they were so boring to play as.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, like, I remember trying to play as the CIS and playing as the droidicars, and it's just like I'm just standing here shooting, but I never liked playing against them. But yeah, I think those would be my favorites. And then with the Clone Wars series, the Commando droids are really cool, and I liked the Magna Guards a lot.
Sure. I mean, or even not to keep pivoting back to Attack of the Clones, but like in the Battle of Geonosis, like those Hellfire droids, like the ones with the big wheels, like those are really cool too.
Those were legit. And then
or even like the Buzz droids from Revenge of the Sith.
Those things were fun. And then in terms of droids with personalities, I mean, I have the classic. HK will always have a special place in my heart. That's largely because KOTOR has a very special place in my heart. I think K2SO is a lot of fun for me. He's definitely a highlight out of Rogue One. I was worried I wasn't going to like BB-8 because I was like, okay, he's like R2, but he rolls. But I don't know. I just feel like BB-8 does feel like his own distinct character.
Right. I think it does too. Like I think it's definitely, because that was my first thought too. Oh, this is new R2. You know, and the same way that we were all trying to, like before The Force Awakens, like which one is the Han and which one, especially before we knew which one used the Force.
Right. Because they really made it like Finn was going to be the Force user. Obviously, that was the
right.
You were being rescued.
But yeah, so like I definitely think, but I don't know. I think K2SO is one of the best parts of Rogue One, and Rogue One is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Like I think it's such a well done character, and I think Alan Tudyk does really well at it.
So good.
And
yeah.
I think it'll be an awful shame if we don't get K2 in the Cassian show.
Somehow. Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine what the production costs of having K2 in the Cassian show will be like, but I don't know.
To not have it at all would be a waste. I feel like, to get off of screen. I mean, we just recently had our Streamcast where we talked about Dr. Aphra, and I love 000 and BT. And I love how 000 and BT interact. And I love Mr. Bones from Aftermath.
Right.
That droid. And I'm convinced that, obviously they can't say for sure, but there are several distinct moments with Mr. Bones that are supposed to be shout-outs to HK-47.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That he has some of HK in him. I think the first book where Timon's listing off the personalities he put inside, it's like an offhand version, like, oh, it's an assassination droid. And then in Empire's End, which I won't say too much about, there's a point where he like straight uses a HK quote, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Well, which book is it? And I don't know, this may be a spoiler, but like I just remember the Mr. Bones line, a hug is violence made of love.
Like, it just recently happened. I think it's in Life Debt. But yeah, he's so good.
What about the chat? Do you have favorite droids or droids that you think are the coolest?
I saw a shout out to Guri from Shadows of the Empire out there earlier.
Oh yeah.
And it just made me think of.
I have complicated thoughts about Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. But it just made me think of Super Robot Leia from the Jedi Prince series. There's nothing better than like the life model decoy of Princess Leia that can shoot lasers out of her eyes. So there you go. Hey Kiana, thank you for leaving a like.
Yeah, Legends is just always full of stuff that definitely everything should still be canon because it makes perfect sense. But
yeah.
And I think that's one thing though that some Legends books really suffered from, is because like, you know, Wedge had an R2, and you know, like all the different characters in the X-Wing novels, like they would have their own R2, like their own astromech droids. They weren't always R2 droids, but like like I felt like those weren't developed as characters the way, and maybe it's just harder to do in a written medium, but like Mr. Bones did it well.
Yeah, and I feel like I mean, right, we were talking about the X-Wing, like, Corran had his own.
Right.
And that sort of thing. Yeah, I agree. I love the
dot matrix.
Dot matrix. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I saw Spaceballs, I think it was like my first Mel Brooks movie, and I didn't get it, and I was like, what is this? I think I was also sick, and that there was a large part. And then I watched it again like a month later, and I just laughed the whole time. So I think it was just like this. I don't understand what's going on. And Chopper's classic.
I saw Spaceballs. I was at a friend's house spending the night, and it was like middle school. And so like this would have been like right around the time that I'd like first seen Star Wars, because it was like 97 when the re-release started.
Yeah.
And so like that was the first time I saw Star Wars, was when it was re-released. And so it would have been like right around in there, like 97, 98, 99. And I was at this like sleepover, and I was the only one awake, and the TV was just kind of on, and Spaceballs came on like in the middle of the night, like on TBS or something like that. And then the next morning everybody woke up, and I was like, what was that Star Wars movie that I watched? Like, I knew enough to know that it was supposed to be like Star Wars, but I was like, I don't know, like, what happened? And like, my friends had never seen Spaceballs, but they were all big Star Wars fans, and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, I'm telling you, there was this movie, it came on, and it was Star Wars, and I don't understand.
That's
like,
so good.
It was yogurt, and they were like, you mean Yoda? I'm like, no, I don't mean Yoda. Like, I know. Like, the guy was playing with dolls, and there was a vacuum cleaner. Like,
and they're all like, Janko just had the weirdest dream, guys.
No, it was a movie. I'm telling you, it was real. I watched it. There was a Darth Vader guy, but then he had like a safari helmet when they were on the desert, like, and it was years before I saw Spaceballs again, and I had no idea what it was that I had watched, and nobody I talked to had ever seen it or knew what it was, because we were all like 12 years old, and nobody was letting us watch Mel Brooks movies.
Right. I wish I could have seen the look on your face when you're like, this is the movie from my childhood.
Yeah, Blue. So it was exactly that. Like, if that meme had existed in 1998, it would have been exactly that.
That's funny.
Now I want to watch Spaceballs.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. Oh, Spaceballs the flamethrower. They're supposed to be making the Spaceballs too.
Well, for a long time, Spaceballs 2 was contingent on Rick Moranis agreeing to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Supposedly that was lined up, but supposedly we're also getting a Kenobi movie, so.
Right. Which now might supposedly be a TV show. Hey, Yagi, welcome.
Yagi. Yeah, we're just starting to wind things down. But before I went on my Spaceballs story, you were talking about Chopper. I love, and I don't think I even noticed this the first time I watched it. I think I only saw it on the repeat viewing that I did of the very last episode of Rebels, when they credit Dave Filoni as the voice of Chopper.
Yep.
Like, I love that, talking about droids and personalities and things like that. The internet probably just heard my computer notify me that the Manchester United game was over. But I love that that's how Dave Filoni inserted himself into that, was through
Rebels.
Was through a droid.
And now he's the voice of the Keldor Ace in Resistance.
Yep.
Which is cool. And then, of course, from Rebels, there's a lot of love for the AP5 protocol droid, who's Alan Rickman as a droid.
Yeah.
But man, there's just so many, and it's one of those things where I feel like if there wasn't a droid of some kind, it wouldn't feel right. I mean, unless it's something that's like super, super force based, because you don't really have droids that touch the force unless it's the Cestus Deception, and we don't need to talk about the Cestus Deception. on here.
I mean, I don't know. The other day I was watching you play Force Unleashed, and Lobot said that you thought Necessitous Deception was the best book ever.
Well, Lobot tells lies, so keep that in mind.
Well, before we start to wind down, I have one more question for you, and I think it's the one that people most wanted us to answer in this Streamcast, and that is, what about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees? It's very important.
I mean,
you heard about the droid attack on the Wookiees.
I mean, I have pretty good relations with the Wookiees, so maybe I can just go
me too.
And take care of it.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees? It's still to this day one of my favorite Star Wars memes. You could just be talking, it's like, well, what about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
Yeah. It is one of the true gems that we have gotten from Star Trek or Star Wars.
Star Trek.
Star Wars fandom. I'm sorry, I was watching.
What about the Borg attack on the Wookiees?
I was watching Star Trek right before we hopped on Discord. So.
You know, as long as we're talking about droids and Chopper, maybe we should talk about that thing that currently only Blue has done.
Oh yeah, that even we haven't done this time around. So...
Well, I don't want to reveal mine until the end. But
sure, yeah.
I mean, Yaddleborn. I'm sure the great artist Yaddleborn will be back.
I forgot about
that. So we might as well just extend it through the Friday, even though I think
through the end of the summer.
Extend it until we get more than 5. If you join our Discord, we're doing a draw Chopper challenge. So you got to not use reference material. I suppose if you don't know who Chopper is, you can look at a picture of Chopper, but then put it away before you draw it. And draw Chopper, and then we will feature it in an art video on the channel.
Or if you don't know who Chopper is, we can just tell you that Chopper is an orange astromech droid, and you can just draw whatever you think Chopper looks like.
Yes, I think...
With no context at all.
Poe, please do that. Please just draw who you think Chopper is. And put the image in the correct port on our Discord. That's fine. That's fine.
I mean, neither can we.
We can't. It's great.
Our pal James did our Kylo challenge in like the note app on his iPhone. So.
Then Yagi, you do it too.
Yeah.
Like it'll be even better that way. He's an orange astromech droid. Just draw an orange astromech droid and tell us what you think.
Yep.
Yeah, he's an orange droid. You can do it. Believe in you.
Peer pressure.
And then, but you have to submit it through our Discord, which is not at all a way of us convincing you all to join our Discord server.
Which should have been linked in the chat a couple times by Lobot by now, if you need to find it.
It should be in the description, too.
Yeah, I think I can make Lobot do it again. Discord. We'll see if that worked.
I'll give you a hint. If you don't know who Chopper is, I won't tell you which one, but he's on the thumbnail for this video.
Just pick out the one that most looks like a Chopper to you.
Yeah, and draw that one. But don't look at a reference image while you draw. It's honor system.
Yeah.
And once we get like 5, we'll do the video.
But this, I think, has been one of the most fun streams we've done.
I had a good time.
I enjoyed this a lot.
I wonder, do we know anybody who's live right now?
Well, while you look that up, I will remind people that in addition to our Discord, you can also find us on Twitter, where we are pretty active, on Instagram, where we are trying to be more active. And, of course, we still have our Facebook and our forums and our blog site, where our pal Gramps is still posting news articles pretty regularly. So if you need a source of Star Wars news,
we're live right now.
or cool. Want to, nobody's live.
No, I said we're live.
Oh, we're live.
Hold on. I have more subs on my other account. Hold on.
But make sure that you are following us on all the things. But definitely check out our Discord. Discord is where we post about what YouTube videos are coming up and when our streams are going to be, and On the incredibly rare case where we don't stream on the same day and time every week, Discord is where we let you know about that too. And I will also say, as a way to plug the Discord again, this topic came from Discord. So we asked people what kind of topics they wanted us to cover, and somebody said the droid attack on the Wookiees.
And here we are.
And the sort of droid rights stuff that we got into a little bit, and this is where this came from. So, Poe says John is live.
Oh, John's live? Okay. I feel like it's just like the regular Wednesday raid on John, which is fine. But yeah, that's cool. I'll grab the link from his stream and post it. This was a lot of fun. And to shout out Poetic Injustice in our chat, Sergeant Curry Pants in our chat, Brandster was here earlier, are all friends of ours whose content, McYagi has a YouTube channel, he's also on Twitch a lot more. All very regular people here whose content we're big fans of, and you guys should be checking out. Bear was here, Bear Naked Gaming, another big fan. And John is, who we're going to go visit, is another good friend of the channel. Who often can't be here because is often streaming at the same time as us.
Right.
There's John. Make sure you use the hashtag Raylo is canon.
Yep.
And we'll rate him. But thank you all for being here. It's much appreciated. Really good turnout. We love chatting with you guys. It makes it better.
And if you haven't already, before we sign off, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're not already, if you subscribe, you'll get notified every time we go live. If you subscribe and hit that notification bell.
Yep. Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for us today. We will see you next week. Glory, glory, Man United.
Bye.